Hello, my grots and gits. Welcome back to Happy Crumpin' Wargaming. I have a treat for you today. With the release of the data slate, we have da boys. They've returned. So basically what we've got to do now is we've got to figure out, with all these new meta shifts, how the heck are we going to be running our green squiggly little balls of love up the battlefield to crump our opponents. And today we're going to do it. So let's just not have any further ado. We're going to jump right into it. What are we going to be covering in today's video? We're going to be talking about points and rules changes, because that's really important. We're going to be talking about meta shifts. So how do orcs really slot into the meta as a whole now? Then we're going to be talking about winners and losers and the new roles that certain units might be filling in our army. And then finally, I'm going to give you two actual potential lists. Now, I'm going to have another video, maybe in about 2 weeks after I've had enough time to test a bunch of variety of lists, because we're going to see a lot of Orks variety, especially in the Happy Crumpin' Wargaming TTS tournament, which is starting tomorrow morning. So if you want to join, you got to sign up for the members side of the Discord using the Ko-Fi link down below. List submission is due tonight. So if you're on the fence, hop on in. It's going to be an absolute blast. But we'll have a lot of data for you on how different Orks lists are doing in maybe a couple weeks. So that's what we're going to be covering today. Let's just jump right on in. Points buffs. All right. We got points buffs. We got some points nerfs. What were the buffs? Well, the Battle Wagon. He goes from 185 down to 160. This, my friends, we're going to talk about the Battle Wagon specifically in a little bit, but this is a very, very big deal because suddenly one Battle Wagon is cheaper than 3 trucks. And that is a breakpoint that's really, really important for us to think about. Okay. Then we have the Kill Rig. The Kill Rig's dropped from 200 to 170. I'll give you my thoughts on that in a little bit. The Hunter Rig down to 160 to 150. More positive than my thoughts on the Kill Rig, but the Morkanaut, thank goodness. Now we can finally accept that orcs are actually broken. We are busted. We are unbelievably strong because our Morkanaut is finally 295. The Weird Boy down by 10 points. Okay. All the buggies went down by 10 points except for the Shock Jump, which was down by 15, and then the Killicons went from 150 to 125. Now, overall, I understand what Games Workshop was going for here. They wanted to take a bunch of our unused models and just do a blanket points drop on them to see how we can use our creativity to make them work in the new meta. And I actually really do understand that. The problem with this is that, in general, all of the units listed here, outside of the Battle Wagon, and the Weird Boy, to be fair, their issue is not their points cost. Their issue is their data sheets. But don't worry, everybody. Remember, we actually have a new codex coming in. We're the next codex. So I'm not sure exactly when it drops, but the next codex should be Orks. So we're going to probably have a bunch of data sheets rewrites in the codex. So don't be concerned there. Now let's talk about some of the points nerfs. So our knobs went from 105 to 110. As you might understand that if you've watched this channel for a little bit, I love knobs, and this is awesome. I'm so happy with this because I was afraid that our knobs were going to go to like 130, but more on that later. Squig Hogs from 110 to 125, and the truck goes from 60 to 65. So we did get some points nerfs. It wasn't many units that got points nerfs, but it was actually really important units that got points nerfs. And overall, I'm not super upset with it. I think there was a little bit of harshness in the Squig Hogs, but it is what it is. Now, overall, how are orcs faring? How did they make out on this data slate? What's going to change your game plan? Well, in all reality, everybody, you should be very excited because orcs are in an amazing place right now. Orcs were already in a good place. We just had some natural predators we couldn't handle. Like, we really couldn't handle Eldar. We couldn't do anything about Chaos Space Marines, at least not the meta Chaos Space Marines list. Like, if you were playing unmeta stuff, maybe you could. But when they were running double Forge Fiends, 3 units of Chosen, 2 units of... It was basically an impossible matchup. Well, or at least it was a very, very, very bad matchup. And so was the Eldar matchup. I mean, I've won both of those matchups before, but dice were on my side when I won them. I've never won those without dice being on my side. So with our natural predators going down, the boys are here to freaking shine, everybody. So we're very, very excited about that. Necrons was already a pretty good matchup. It's still a pretty good matchup. The thing that we struggle as orcs into Necrons is that we do tend to struggle with those Satan. Now, the one Transcendent Satan losing its 4 Field of Pain going to a 5-up is actually a pretty big deal. But the other 2 Satan, the Void Dragon and the Nightbringer, I don't even bother including the Deceiver because you'll never see them. gaining a 5-up is really brutal. So that's tough for us. And that's not a data slate change. That was just the recent Necron's Codex release. But it is tough for us to handle. We do have the tools to handle it. We have Squig Bombs. We have Take Shock. We have pew grenades, pews, and then we have a ton of low of 1 damage attacks that we can just tie them over. So we can kill the Satan, but they are an actual issue for us. The rest of the Necron roster is not that big a problem for Orks. So I think Orks and Necrons are going to be on a fairly even playing field. There might be a slight edge to Necrons because Necrons might have a little bit more of an opportunity for player skill expression, but not much. Then we're still going to struggle into Votann because Votann are still a just natural counter to Orks. They're still going to smack Orks really bad. It doesn't mean it's an impossible matchup, but it is still a very challenging matchup. On the bright side, Votann did get more expensive on their Sagittars, and they did get more expensive on their Hearthguard. I don't think the Hearthguard were the unit that needed to go up. I really think it was the Pioneers, and we're probably just going to see Pioneer spam now. But not really complaining too much. Votann did see a little bit, although a little bit of negative changes. Although if you're an actual Votann player or you guys know Votann players, those little dwarves are probably trying to do backflips in Glee right now. But overall, guys, the Orks are looking really good in the meta. Really, Votann is the thing that should concern us, and they should concern us like 1% less than they used to, which is still concerning, but it's okay. So we're actually very, very freaking happy with the way that we play now. Even Dark Eldar getting their new detachment, I don't really foresee that being too big an issue for Orks. We certainly don't like thousands of Dark Lances, but we have so many units that we can just throw out. I think that's still a good matchup for us as well. Let's talk about the winners and losers, baby. Let's do some detail on this freaking Battle Wagon. All right. He becomes a big bad boy, everybody. I was really hoping to see him about 155. So at 160, I'm like, ooh, GW did it. I think this is where the Battle Wagon needs to roughly be. Much cheaper than this, he'd probably be broken cheap. Any more expensive, he was stupidly expensive. So that 160 to 150 range is going to be the sweet spot for the Battle Wagon, and I like him. Now, he is not an auto-include model, and that's really important for you to understand. He will not change every single list that you build, but he does give us a very serious mobile staging platform. He's opening up a lot of different types of lists, and he opens up just different unit play. Now, there is the question that everyone's going to ask, do you give him the kill cannon? As of right now, no, you do not give him the kill cannon unless you only want to put 1 unit in him. Because if you want to use his transport capacity of 22 models, he can't take the kill cannon. Now, the kill cannon actually is a relatively decent gun, but hitting on 5s, even with a mech hitting on 4s, is that worth sacrificing the additional 10 transport slots? Most of the time, no. We really, really badly want that ARD case. So we definitely want the ARD case. If we're in a situation where we're not necessarily taking the ARD case, then I can see just dropping Ludas in there and putting the kill cannon, but that's going to be in a shooting detachment. That's not what we have right now. We do not have a shooting detachment, so think of this guy as he has some guns, but the purpose of him is to be a big, tough T12 model with a permanent armor of contempt. He's always going to have cover because he's a big unit. He is a mobile staging area, and we love him for it. So you're going to give him all the bells and whistles, except for the kill cannon. You're probably going to give him the normal cannon or the zap gun, but honestly, it doesn't really matter. That gun is not why you're taking him, but he's pretty cool. I'm going to see a lot of lists that are going to be built with 2 of these now, and I'm going to give you an example of one in just a little bit. Let's talk about our knobs. Our knobs were big winners from this balance patch. I really expected GW to kill them, to put them up to that 130 level where they did the Chosen. I'm so glad they didn't, because that would have been a travesty and it would have been unplayable. Knobs at that 110 level is basically perfect. 105, they were a little cheap. 115, they were a little pricey. 110, I think GW just hit this on the head. This is perfect. It's a great spot for them. You're going to have no problem spending 110 for 5 of them. You're going to have no problem spending 220 for 10 of them. Knobs are in a great place. Remember, guys, we're basically always running claws, and we're always running war bosses with them, because the war boss gives them a constant -1 to wound. That constant -1 to wound is a big deal, because it means you never have to spend CP to -1 to wound them. So you can always have your Art as Nail stratagem ready and safe to be used on Mozrog or your Beast Boss in Square or somewhere else, right? So, and the knobs will always still have the -1. So that is very, very key. Now let's talk about some of our other winners. All of our winners, guys, were our characters. Now you might think, oh, but the characters didn't really go down, and you're right. But the fact that they didn't go up, which I thought they were all going to be going up by 5 points or so, is a amazing thing. The war boss is value town at 65, and he's still at 65. You're still going to be running 2, potentially 3 of these bad boys. War bosses are amazing. They get 9 attacks during the WoF phase, and we freaking love them. Mazrog stayed. He didn't go up at all. That was beautiful. Now, I don't really think Maz needed to go up, but there was a lot of discussion about GW actually nerfing him and making him go up. Him staying alive at the same points cost gives us a great position to be with the new meta. Then Badruck, who's also in literally every single list with his 10 flash kits, they stayed the same, he stayed the same, and flash kits stayed the same. Now, it's really good that flash kits stayed the same, because while everyone thinks that flash kits are good, they're all wrong. Flash kits actually suck. The one squad that is run with Badruck is good, because that's the squad that's going to get reroll hit rolls at all times. That squad is very good. All other flash kits suck. I actually tried some really interesting strategies on a live stream a little while ago, where I was running my trucks with 5 knobs and a war boss and 5 flash kits, because the thought process was, well, the flash kits could also provide extra shooting, and they're actually even better at clearing hordes than the knobs are, so I can use them to trade. It just didn't work. They were too expensive. They suck when they're naked. They need Badruck, so Badruck not going up is fantastic. And then we had the Weird Boy go down. Now, the Weird Boy is an interesting model for me, because one, he is a pretty useful individual character that can just teleport and grab you investigate signals. He can teleport, grab you engage. So he is kind of a useful little tech piece, but I also sometimes just feel like he just gives my opponents assassinate points for no reason. Now, at 55 instead of 65, that might be attractive for me. So he definitely went down, and that is a little bit interesting. But basically, overall, we're very happy because our character has won. Now, what about our losers? And this first one might surprise you. The Kill Rig is our first loser. Yes, the Kill Rig who went down from 200 to 170, he's our first loser. I gotta be real with you guys. It doesn't actually matter how cheap this thing gets. It sucks. It's bad. It only moves 10. It's only AP 1 and everything. It's hitting on 3s. It brackets. It gives up a ton of points on Bring It Down. It only has a 3-up armor save. It has a 6-up Feel No Pain. It doesn't have damage reduction like it did in last edition. It just sucks. Not to mention, its guns are not even assault, so it has low mobility. Everyone's excited about its whir tower, how it auto hits and everything. Yeah, that's great, but you can't move him to use it anymore because you can't even advance with him. The problem with this, honestly, you take this Kill Rig down to the 110, 120 level, maybe I'll take him at that point, but at that point, the cost is just ludicrously cheap. And it would have to be ludicrously cheap for me to consider him. He is a bad model, which really, really hurts my feelings, and I hate it because he was my favorite unit in 9th edition. I loved him. I was running double. I was running triple Kill Rigs. They were incredible. In 10th edition, they just suck. They desperately need a data sheet rewrite, and I'm praying that GW gives it to us in the codex. That should be announced within a month or so, I assume. So that is the Kill Rig. Don't care that he went down by 30 points. He's still awful. Squig Hogs. Squig Hogs were losers. Now, does this mean Squig Hogs are dead? Absolutely not. Squig Hogs are actually still a good, viable unit. We still enjoy them. They still slap. They're still very tough with them. You can always give them -1 to wound, so that T7 -1 to wound and mounted keyword, meaning there's not going to be any anti/keywords in the game against them. It's a very big deal. Then they have the built-up 5 of Feel No Pain. These guys are still really good. I will say, I think we've seen the last days of the 12 or the 18 Squig Hog list. At that point, it's just too expensive, and we have to cut too much out of the rest of our list. I definitely can value and still see having a unit, and I've been pretty comfortable with just running the one squad. So this doesn't really change my game plan too much, and I don't think it's going to change many of yours. But the 18 Hog list is probably pretty dead, to be completely fair. All right, that's the Hog. So they are a little bit of a loser, but they're not dead, which is very nice. And then let's look at some of the neutral changes. So a lot of our neutral changes were, we had the buggies, the cons, the trucks, everything else. All right, trucks going from 60 to 65. It doesn't matter. You're still going to take trucks. The nice thing is that since the battle wagon also went down, you don't need as many trucks anymore either, which is pretty darn cool. The cons went from 150 to 125. That's actually a big points cut. Does it matter? Not really. At least not in the detachment that we currently have. If we could have a mech buff the unit of cons for +1 to hit, okay, then I would be excited about them, but we can't because the mech only buffs a single model, which kind of sucks. So there's just no synergies for these guys. They move 6, they have a 3-up armor save, they're T6, they're not tough, They don't have a good armor save. They're not good. Now, if we saw these guys go to a 2-up armor save, maybe I'm considering them then, but their bases are freaking massive. It's really hard to use them. I don't see how I could include them in our current detachment. That doesn't mean that with 0 changes in another detachment, they couldn't be good. So if cons stayed at 125 and got no changes, and then the Codex comes out and we get a shooting detachment or a Dreadwad detachment, they might be very good in that detachment. But in the current one, with the current stratagems and everything that we have, it just doesn't work. So I'm not super excited about them. And that's basically everything. That's the same story for the buggies. All the buggies find themselves in the same situation as the kill rig. They need datasheet rewrites. It doesn't really matter how cheap they get. They kind of suck. Okay, the custom boosted ballistic can be a little bit cute and provide a -1 to hit to 1 unit. But it's still 75 points, and that's literally all it does because it's not going to cause any damage. It's going to die very easy. It's not tough. So the buggies just need datasheet rewrites, very similar to the kill rig. And luckily, we have a codex coming out which can fix that. Now, I wanted to talk about the Hunter rig real fast. The Hunter rig went down to 150 points. Now, at 150, the Hunter rig is close to me valuing it. If it could transport 22 Snagga models instead of 21, I think I'd be super pleased at 150. But it only being able to transport 21 just makes it like it's close to me thinking that it's good, but it still suffers from a lot of the problems as the normal kill rig. It is just a transport that's T10 with a 3-up armor save and a 6-up feel no pain. It's not hard to kill. It's not fast. Its base is obnoxious, so it's really hard to maneuver around the battlefield. If it could transport 2 units of Snaggas, each with their own beast boss, so I could send them out in different ways, then we could talk. But it can't, which really makes me question it. However, I will say there is some thought process for me where I kind of want to put a 20-man squad of Snaggas led by a pain boss inside of it to run massive OC control. So I don't think it's useless. I think putting it at 150 makes it usable, but I wouldn't really call it much of a winner because I don't think it's going to dramatically change any of our lists. So I would call this a little bit neutral, but it needs a little more explanation. It just does not do the same thing that a T12 battle wagon with 22 slots in it does. So I'm curious about the kill rig or the hunter rig. I think the hunter rig with a different ability might be very attractive. Keeping its data, keeping all of its stat line basically the same, but just give it a new ability. I think I might really enjoy it. The kill rig needs a completely different rework. All right, so let's go ahead. I'm going to talk about 2 example lists that I have for you amazing crumping grots and grits. Grots and gits, not grots and grits. We're not in the South. We're in Norway. So we're going to talk about 2 of the different lists that I've built up that I think is going to give you a good idea of where to go right now. Now, there are also lots of other list examples, and I think I'll do an entire video just on different list spotlights to help you guys in your list building. And if you want more help with this, you can always book a coaching call where we can go through list building tutorials and stuff and help you build the best list possible for your tournament. But for right now, this is the bunker, baby. So I've got a beast boss. I've got a beast boss on Squig with Edwap's Kill Chopper. And the reason why I include the Edwap's Kill Chopper is because suddenly this guy is a threat against monsters' vehicles. Because the normal beast boss in Squig just does approximately 0 damage, so you're not concerned about it. But when he's getting a bunch of dev wounds coming against the monsters' vehicles, he actually is a bit of a problem. And he's very tough, and he's still providing his reroll charge aura to all the Snagga units. Then I'm going to have a Pain Boy with Cunning But Brutal, War Boss, Badruck, Mazrog Scragbag, Zodrog Wartsnagga. So Zodrog Wartsnagga is going to run with a unit of Gretchen. And then I've got a 10-man squad of Beast Snaggas who's going to be with that Beast Boss. And they will be inside one of the 2 battle wagons. So I've got this highlighted color-coded for you guys, right? So you can see the Beast Boss and his 10 Snaggas are inside the red battle wagon. And then the War Boss and his 5 knobs are inside the red battle wagon. Then I've got Captain Badruck and his flash kits inside a truck. And then I have the Pain Boy and his 20 Orc boys inside the battle wagon. So that Pain Boy with the Orc boys is an interesting build, and I think I like it a lot, because suddenly that entire squad is going to be T5. I can always make them -1 to wound, and they're going to have a 5-up armor save or a 4-up in cover with a 5-up feel no pain. Unit armies can kill that. They can, but it's not easy. They're going to have to actually work for it, and they're going to have to chew through a battle wagon before they do it. Then, the Pain Boy having the ability to fall back and charge gives me the opportunity to do sneaky things like fall back, throw grenades, shoot pistols, charge back in, get into interesting places, clog up a bunch. I think it's a fascinating concept for me. And the fact that they're in a battle wagon that you have to chew through first gives me a ton of objective control with that squad. I think I like it. Then, of course, I have the obligatory two units of Storm Boys in order to score points. And I actually have 3 Grot squads. Now, one little trick a lot of people might not think about is a lot of times in this army, I might actually start Zodrog and the Gretchen inside a truck because the truck is a dedicated transport, which means the truck will get to scout. Then in my first turn, I can hop them out of it, and then I can advance up my flash kits and hop them into the truck. So I can play hopscotch with it a little bit. It gives me flexibility in the way that I deploy. So this is Bunker Baby. I'm actually really excited for it. I think it scores really, really well. I think it controls objectives really, really well. And it still has enough threat to not let your opponent just run at you. Then the next one I have is Stay the Path. This is the list that I've built that is essentially the same common list that I've been running. And I think you're going to like this as well. So this is where we're keeping very similar list structure to what we've been running, but we just have to do a little bit of an adjustment with points. So we're going to run 1 Beast Boss with his 10 Snaggaboys inside a truck. We're going to run a War Boss with 10 Knobs inside a truck. Then we're going to run 2 War Bosses with 2 5-man Knob squads inside another truck. And then lastly, we've got Captain Badruck with his Gits inside another truck. So it's 4 truck drop. We've got 1 unit of Storm Boys. And then we've got the 6 Squig Hog boys with the Noblin Smash Squig, keeping that Edwap Skill Chopper for that sweet, sweet Dev Wounds, and Mozrog Scragbad. You guys have probably seen me run basically this list a dozen times on stream, and it is a very good list. We just had to shift points around just a little bit to make it work. Essentially what we just did is I had to drop a unit of Gretchen. And I'm okay with that. This list still totally slaps. It still totally works. So these are 2 example lists that I think you guys can take with you and you can experiment with them. If you want to see how they run on the tabletop, I will be streaming tomorrow night, and I'll also be streaming on Saturday. We actually have a special guest, Anthony from Northern Knights Gaming, is coming on the stream, and we're going to do a battle for everybody. We're going to be answering questions, taking all that stuff. So it's going to be an absolute blast. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you still want to, you do have like an additional 16 hours or so, maybe not that quite that many, maybe like 10 hours left to register for the Happy Crumping Wargaming Tournament, Crumpfest 1. If you want to do that, you can jump on to Ko-Fi to support me there by becoming a member of the Discord, and then I will send you an access code. You just got to send me a DM on Discord. I'll send you an access code, and we'll get you all registered, guys. The Orks are in a great position. You might not be super excited by the changes, but it's a fantastic position. And don't forget, we have a codex dropping soon. So until next time, everybody, wah on and get ready to crump your opponents with the most fun freaking faction in the game. Bye-bye.